Kairos Thorne's life as a terraforming engineer on the distant world of Veridia Prime was, by most standards, a peaceful one. Despite the occasional pang of longing for Earth's bustling metropolises, Veridia Prime was a haven, a lush, vibrant planet swathed in towering ancient forests and bisected by meandering, silver-streaked rivers. Its fauna, though alien, stirred faint echoes of terrestrial life, subtly different yet strangely familiar. The colossal trees here bore leaves that shimmered with an ethereal glow, their colors shifting between liquid gold, deep violet, and emerald green under the twin suns. The very sky itself was a canvas of soft lavender by day, bleeding into a breathtaking, deep crimson at twilight. The air, thick with the hum of exotic insects, carried the haunting calls of the planet's many enigmatic creatures. Kairos had spent countless hours exploring the regions surrounding his assigned colony, utterly captivated by the raw beauty of his new home. Yet nothing in his quiet existence could have prepared him for the encounter that awaited him one evening. After a long, arduous day spent fine-tuning the colony's nascent atmospheric processors, Kairos yearned for the solitude only the wild could offer. He decided on a hike along the treacherous cliffs overlooking the great Aethel River. The Aethel was a formidable force of nature, carving its path through the dense, bioluminescent forest with a roaring, turbulent current. Its dangers were well known, and many colonists had warned him to steer clear of the perilous cliffs. But Kairos, ever drawn to challenge and quiet contemplation, often ventured there alone. As the twin suns began their slow descent, casting long, fractured shadows across the landscape, a sound sliced through the twilight that froze him in his tracks. A distant, desperate, keening cry echoed up from the river below, followed by explosive splashing and thrashing that sent a surge of adrenaline through his veins. He scrambled to the edge of the jagged cliff, peering down into the churning, iridescent waters. What he saw sent a shock of icy dread straight to his core. Below him, caught in the swirling, powerful eddies of a hungry whirlpool, was a creature unlike anything he had ever witnessed. The creature was immense, easily twice the size of any terrestrial leviathan Kairos had ever studied. It wasn't a predator of tooth and claw, but a being of breathtaking, ethereal beauty, a Phosflora. Its form resembled a graceful, bioluminescent manta ray, yet instead of fins, it possessed delicate, crystalline wings that pulsed and shimmered with every conceivable hue of the rainbow, like fragments of cosmic stained glass catching the fading light. The very body itself was a tapestry of translucent, flowing tendrils that glowed with a soft internal luminescence, revealing intricate veins of pure energy beneath its surface. Two enormous, empathic eyes, like polished emeralds, burned with a mixture of intelligence and raw terror as they locked onto Kairos. They seemed to plead, silently, for help. Around its slender, almost liquid neck, subtly woven into its very being, was a collar of living cron silver, pulsing faintly with complex, archaic glyphs that seemed to breathe with the creature's failing life. For a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, Kairos knew he couldn't stand by and watch it perish. Without a second thought, he shrugged off his pack and jacket, hastily kicking off his heavy boots. He took one last calculated glance down at the raging river, assessing his chances of survival. They weren't good. The thought of letting such a majestic, obviously sentient creature drown while he merely observed was utterly unthinkable. He dove off the cliff, plunging into the frigid depths below. The coldness of the Aethel hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath. The force of the current was far stronger than he'd anticipated, immediately dragging him downstream. His limbs were already beginning to go numb, a cruel chill seeping into his bones as he fought against the river's relentless pull. But he had to reach the creature. With powerful, desperate strokes, he swam towards the Phosflora, which was now being sucked under by the whirlpool, its luminescence dimming to a desperate flicker. It let out another mournful, keening cry, its emerald eyes wide with a mixture of fear and defiance as it struggled against the inevitable. Kairos reached it just as its large, glowing head began to sink beneath the surface. He lunged, grabbing onto the creature's slick, resilient tendrils, feeling the immense, yet now failing strength of its muscles as it continued to thrash. For a terrifying instant, he thought they would both be dragged under and drowned in the vortex. But using every last ounce of strength he possessed, Kairos pulled the Phosflora's head above the water, battling to keep both of them afloat in the swirling, icy current. He managed to wrap one arm around its almost liquid form, using his other hand to paddle furiously towards the distant rocky shore. It was a grueling, desperate effort. The current fought against them with brutal force, and Kairos's muscles screamed with exertion as he kicked and paddled, slowly, agonizingly making his way towards the riverbank. The Phosflora, sensing his desperate aid, seemed to cease its frantic struggling, its vast body going limp with exhaustion, its breathing ragged. Its internal light, though still present, was a faint, struggling glow. Kairos could feel a frantic pulse beneath his arm, a testament to its near-death experience. After what felt like an eternity, Kairos's feet finally touched the muddy bottom near the bank. With the last vestige of his strength, he hauled both himself and the alien being onto the shore, collapsing in a heap beside the magnificent creature. His chest heaved as he gasped for breath, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm in his ears. The Phosflora lay beside him, its massive form rising and falling with labored breaths as it too struggled to recover. For several long, silent moments, neither moved. Kairos lay there staring up at the sky, which had now deepened to a profound shade of indigo as true night descended. His body ached, and the biting cold of the river had seeped deep into his bones, but the adrenaline still coursing through his veins kept him from passing out. He slowly turned his head to look at the creature beside him. Its translucent form, still slick with water, shimmered faintly with an otherworldly glow that now seemed to stabilize. It appeared to be alive. Kairos had saved it. But what now? He knew nothing about this species, nothing about its behavior, its temperament. For all he knew, it could be dangerous. Yet for the moment, the Phosflora seemed content to lie there, its breathing gradually slowing as it recovered from its ordeal. As Kairos shakily sat up, he noticed something strange around the creature's neck. Buried subtly beneath its flowing, translucent tendrils was the silver collar. He hadn't truly focused on it in the chaos of the rescue, but now it was unmistakable. The collar, made of a dark, metallic-like material that seemed to almost flow, was etched with glowing glyphs that pulsed faintly with an inner light. His heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just some wild animal. It was wearing something that unequivocally indicated it had an owner, or at least some kind of connection to intelligent ancient life. What had he just saved? And to whom did it belong? Kairos' pulse quickened as the profound reality of the situation dawned on him. This was no ordinary alien creature. Whatever this Phosflora was, it was important. And if someone had lost it, they'd undoubtedly come looking for it. He stood up unsteadily, casting a nervous glance at the thick, alien forest behind them. He had no idea what lurked out there, but a sudden, chilling feeling washed over him. He wasn't alone anymore.
The initial adrenaline of the rescue began to recede, leaving Kairos feeling profoundly cold, utterly exhausted, and achingly sore. His clothes clung to him, soaked through from the freezing river, and the deepening night air made him shiver uncontrollably. He stood for a moment, watching the magnificent Phosflora beside him. Its immense form still heaved with labored breaths, but the wild terror in its glowing emerald eyes had softened, replaced by a deep, ancient wisdom. It blinked slowly, its tendrils shifting as if regaining its bearings. The cron-silver collar around its neck continued to pulse faintly, casting eerie, shifting shadows across the darkening landscape. Kairos couldn't tear his gaze from the collar. The glyphs etched upon it were unlike anything he had ever seen. Certainly not a language from any of the known alien species humanity had encountered. They seemed older, more archaic, yet clearly spoke of an advanced civilization. He stepped closer, cautiously reaching out towards the collar, wondering if it was something he could perhaps remove. Before his fingers could make contact, the Phosflora shifted, a low, melodic chime resonating from the collar, a gentle but firm dissuasion. Kairos froze, immediately withdrawing his hand. The creature's eyes flicked towards him, and for a brief, tense moment, their gazes locked. "It's okay," Kairos said softly, unsure if the creature could even comprehend his words. "I'm not going to hurt you." The soft chime subsided, but the Phosflora remained alert, watching his every move with an ancient intensity. Kairos sighed, deciding to back off and give it space. It was clear this being was far more than it seemed, but for now, he needed to figure out their next move. His comlink was back with his pack, still lying near the cliff's edge, a considerable distance from their current location. He glanced at the sky again. Night had fully settled in, and the forest around them was alive with the haunting sounds of nocturnal creatures. The chirping and clicking of alien insects filled the air, and in the distance he could hear the unsettling cries of other predators on Veridia Prime. Staying here on the riverbank, exposed and without his gear, wasn't an option. He had to get back to the colony, or at least find substantial shelter for the night. But as he took a tentative step towards his pack, the Phosflora stirred again. This time it slowly rose to its full height, its vast, luminous form towering over him. Kairos held his breath. Up close, the Phosflora was even more imposing. It stood at least 20 feet high at its apex, its long, flowing body rippling with unseen power. Despite its ethereal, almost fragile appearance, it was undeniably beautiful. Its translucent form, now mostly dry, shimmered with an iridescence that shifted between shades of vibrant green, deep blue, and shimmering silver. And those eyes, glowing with profound intelligence, followed his every movement. Kairos hesitated. The creature was watching him so intently, as if expecting him to lead the way. Was it expecting him to follow? He swallowed hard, trying to suppress the rising tide of awe and trepidation in his chest. He wasn't accustomed to dealing with beings of this magnitude, especially ones that seemed this intelligent. Yet there was something in the way the Phosflora looked at him that felt deliberate, almost as if it understood him more than he realized. Without breaking eye contact, Kairos pointed towards the forest, in the direction of his pack. "I'm going that way," he said quietly. "If you want to follow, you can, but I'm not sticking around here." To his profound surprise, the Phosflora made no move to stop him. It merely stood there, its luminous form shimmering, watching as he turned and headed towards the cliffside where his pack lay. Kairos's heart pounded in his chest as he made his way over to his gear, half expecting the creature to lunge at him at any moment. But it didn't. It simply watched. Once he reached his pack, Kairos retrieved his comlink and checked for any nearby signals. The device beeped softly, indicating that he was just out of range of the colony's main communication network. He cursed under his breath. The colony was still a good 5 kilometers away, And with nightfall, the trek through the dense alien forest would be slow and dangerous. But he had no choice. He slung his pack over his shoulders and turned back towards the creature, which was now settling its vast form onto the earth, still staring at him. "All right," Kairos said, swallowing his nerves. "Let's go." To his amazement, the Phosflora slowly rose and began to glide silently beside him as if it had understood him perfectly. It moved with a grace and elegance that belied its size, its flowing tendrils making barely a sound as they passed over the soft, mossy earth. As they moved deeper into the forest, Kairos kept glancing over at it, still utterly unsure what to make of this bizarre situation. The trek was slow going. The forest floor was uneven, with gnarled roots and thick undergrowth constantly tripping Kairos up. Every now and then strange noises would echo through the ancient trees. Alien avian calls, the distant guttural growls of predators on the hunt. But the sheer presence of the Phosflora seemed to keep most of the threats at bay. Any time a distant predator's cry became too close for comfort, the Phosflora would emit a low, resonant chime, and the noise would cease. As they walked, Kairos couldn't help but notice that the cron-silver collar around the creature's neck continued to pulse faintly. It was as if the glyphs were alive, reacting to their surroundings. Occasionally they would grow brighter, and the Phosflora would stop, its tendrils twitching, as if listening to something that Kairos couldn't hear. Faint, harmonic frequencies that seemed to drift on the night air. This wasn't merely a guardian, it was a receiver, a living conduit for something unseen. After about an hour of walking, Kairos began to feel the heavy weight of exhaustion settle in. His limbs ached from the earlier swim, and the cold night air was sapping his energy. He needed to find shelter soon. The last thing he wanted was to collapse from fatigue in the middle of the alien forest with a gigantic, enigmatic creature by his side. Just as he was about to suggest stopping for the night, the Phosflora suddenly halted. Its tendrils perked up, and it emitted a low, resonant chime, its vast body tensing as it scanned the darkness ahead. Kairos's heart raced. He strained his ears, trying to discern what had triggered the creature's alarm, but all he could hear were the usual sounds of the forest. And then he saw it. Through the thick, ancient trees, faintly illuminated by the glowing glyphs on the Phosflora's collar, was a structure. It was half hidden behind thick bioluminescent vines and overgrown foliage. But there was no mistaking it. This was not a natural formation. It was organic, grown from the very planet itself, pulsating with the same soft internal light as the Phosflora. It felt profoundly ancient, yet unmistakably artificial. "What the heck?" Kairos whispered under his breath. The Phosflora began to glide towards the structure, and Kairos, still in a state of shock, followed. As they drew closer, the outline of the structure became clearer. It was an ancient building, by the looks of it, woven from living rock and crystalline growths, covered in moss and various plant life, as though it had been abandoned for centuries. The front of the building was adorned with strange glyphs, similar to those on the Phosflora's collar, and there was a large circular entrance that appeared to be sealed shut, shimmering like liquid light. Kairos's heart quickened in his chest. This wasn't just some random structure. This was something significant, something ancient, and judging by the way the creature was acting, it had led him here on purpose. As they reached the entrance, the Phosflora stepped forward, pressing its glowing form against the shimmering surface of the organic wall. The glyphs on its collar pulsed brightly, and with a soft, almost ethereal hum, the entrance began to slowly dissolve, rippling like water. Kairos took a step back, his heart hammering in his chest as the liquid entrance slowly revealed what lay beyond. Inside, there was a dim, cerulean light glowing from the organic walls, and in the very center of the chamber, surrounded by strange bioluminescent technology woven from planetary materials, was what looked like a crystalline stasis cocoon. Kairos's breath caught in his throat as he realized what was inside the cocoon. A young alien woman, with skin like polished amethyst and hair like spun moonlight, sleeping peacefully, utterly unaware of the world outside.
He suddenly understood what the Phosflora had been protecting all along.
Kairos gazed, mesmerized, at the crystalline cocoon. The young woman within, with her amethyst skin and moonlit hair, seemed to glow from within, a silent testament to untold ages. The Phosflora, now by Kairos's side, hummed softly, its internal light radiating comfort, filling the organic chamber with a soothing, cerulean aura. This entire structure, this cocoon, wasn't merely a vault. It was a sanctuary, woven from the very life essence of Veridia Prime. He reached out, tentatively touching the shimmering surface of the cocoon. As his fingers made contact, the organic chamber thrummed with a low, resonant frequency, and the Phosflora's cron-silver collar flared with a soft golden light. The crystalline cocoon began to slowly dissolve, its shimmering surface rippling away like mist, revealing the woman. Her eyes, the color of twilight skies, fluttered open. No fear, only a deep, ancient curiosity as they fixed on Kairos. "Where am I?" the woman's voice was, a whisper of wind chimes, ethereal and melodic, and to Kairos's profound astonishment, it was in his own language, albeit with a faint, otherworldly echo. Kairos knelt, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. "You're safe now, on Veridia Prime." Her gaze shifted to the Phosflora, and a radiant, almost sorrowful smile bloomed on her face. "Celestra," she whispered, extending a graceful hand to touch the creature's luminous tendril. The Phosflora leaned into the touch, a soft, purring chime emanating from its form, a sound of profound joy and relief. "My name is Aeris," the woman, Aeris, said, looking back at Kairos, her twilight eyes filled with an ancient weariness. "And Celestra, she is my resonance guardian." Kairos's mind reeled. A resonance guardian. The harmonious frequencies he'd vaguely perceived, the unique color, the organic structure, it all began to click into place. "Why were you in there?" he pressed, his voice barely a whisper. Aeris's smile faltered, replaced by a shadow of deeper, cosmic sorrow. "The Vorlag, they hunt the star-seeders for our genetic codes. We are the last of my lineage." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The organic structure around them began to pulse erratically, its cerulean light flickering to an angry, ominous crimson. The harmonious frequencies that had filled the chamber now became a jarring, discordant clang, like a symphony ripping itself apart. Celestra, the Phosflora, let out a piercing, resonant shriek, its crystalline wings flaring defensively, its internal light surging with furious, protective intensity. "The Vorlag!" she cried, clutching Celestra's glowing tendril, her voice laced with terror. "They've found me! They've breached the planetary frequency veil!" Kairos looked up in horror. Through the organic ceiling, now thinning and cracking, he saw them. Not sleek metallic ships, but colossal, grotesque biological vessels rippling with dark, chitinous armor descending from the darkened sky. They were like monstrous, predatory insects, their appendages tipped with pulsing disruptor cannons, their very presence seeming to drain the vibrant colors from Veridia Prime's natural beauty. One of the Vorlag vessels, an immense, multi-legged horror, began to land directly atop their hidden sanctuary, its organic feet already crushing the surrounding luminous flora with sickening cracks. A gaping, fanged mouth opened in its underside, and shadowy, scuttling figures, resembling armored arachnoids with multiple glowing red eyes, poured out, their chitinous bodies clicking with malevolence. "They're not just looking for me," Aeris whispered, her voice filled with despair, her eyes fixed on the monstrous forms. "They want to extract the ancient Starseeder genetic sequence from me. It's the only way they can weaponize the life force of planets."
Kairos's comlink suddenly flared to life, a frantic, static-laced distress signal from the colony. Kairos, we're under attack. Massive alien vessels. They're terraforming the forest, draining its energy. The core processors are failing." The transmission cut out abruptly. The Vorlag weren't just searching, they were consuming the planet itself to extract Aeris. Veridia Prime's vibrant hues were already beginning to dull, the air growing heavy with a pervasive, unnatural chill, a palpable sense of encroaching death. "What do they mean, weaponized life force?" Kairos demanded, grabbing his pack and checking its contents. Aeris looked at him, her twilight eyes filled with a desperate resolve, a glint of ancient power. "My people, the Starseeders, were the cosmic gardeners. We could imbue barren worlds with life, accelerate evolution, maintain ecological balance. The Vorlag seek to pervert that ability. They drain worlds of their vitality and use that raw power as a destructive force against entire star systems. My genetic makeup is the key to unlocking that devastating potential. They believe by consuming the cosmos, they achieve ultimate control." The organic sanctuary began to groan and buckle under the Vorlag vessel's immense weight. "We have to go," Kairos shouted, motioning towards the entrance. Celestra, the Phosflora, coiled around Aeris protectively, its damaged crystalline wings shimmering with desperate energy. As the first Vorlag arachnoids scuttled into the chamber, their disruptor cannons charging with an ominous hum, Celestra let out a piercing, resonant cry, a sound of both warning and fierce defiance. "Celestra will create a diversion," Aeris stated, her small voice firm despite her terror. "She will disrupt their energy fields. You must take me to the highest point of the Crimson Spires. There, I can send a counter-frequency, a plea for help to any remaining Starseeder echoes across the cosmos. It's our only chance to activate the true Starseeder resonance and reverse their destructive process." Before Kairos could protest, Celestra launched itself forward, its vast, luminous form radiating a blinding pulse of light and a jarring frequency that sent the leading Vorlag arachnoids reeling, their armored bodies sparking and crackling with disrupted energy. The chamber exploded with the sounds of battle. Celesta's piercing, defiant chimes, the Vorlag's guttural clicks, and the crackle of their energy weapons. "Go," Aeris urged, pulling Kairos towards a hidden exit he hadn't noticed, a shimmering portal leading deeper into the dense, now darkening forest. "Celestra won't hold them for long." Kairos didn't hesitate. With the echoes of a planetary battle raging behind them, he and Aeris plunged into the rapidly decaying forest, racing against time, against the relentless Vorlag, and against the very death of Veridia Prime.
They burst from the crumbling sanctuary directly into a nightmare. The forest, once a vibrant tapestry of bioluminescent flora and shimmering canopies, was now a skeletal ruin. The radiant greens and violets had leached away, replaced by a sickly, fungal gray. Plants that once pulsed with life were brittle, crumbling to dust at a touch. The air itself hung heavy and cold, thick with the acrid scent of ozone and decay, a direct result of the Vorlag's insatiable energy siphon. Each breath felt like swallowing ash. The sounds of Celestra's desperate battle with the Vorlag soldiers slowly faded behind them, replaced by the ominous, rhythmic thrum, thrum, thrum of the massive Vorlag ships overhead, echoing the slow, agonizing demise of Veridia Prime. Kairos glanced back, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach, but Aeris pulled him forward, her small hand surprisingly strong in his. "The Vorlag aren't just using scanners," Aeris whispered, her voice strained as they navigated the treacherous, dying undergrowth. "They've infested Veridia Prime's ley lines, the planet's natural energy pathways, with nanite bioweapons. They're creating a planetary sensor web, a constant pulse that tracks all life. We have to move through the corrupted pathways, but fast, before the nanites adapt." The corrupted pathways were a terrifying maze. Once stable ground now shifted beneath their feet, cracked and fissured like brittle ceramic. Deep chasms, previously unseen, yawned open where the planet's energy had been violently ripped away. They dodged sudden geysers of superheated, toxic gas that erupted from newly formed vents, a violent byproduct of the Vorlag's drilling. Kairos's engineering mind grappled with the sheer scale of the environmental degradation. This wasn't just warfare, it was planetary vivisection. Just as they faced an insurmountable ridge, a wall of jagged, crystalline growths that had sprung up overnight from the planet's tortured core, a faint, flickering glow appeared in the distance. Then a raw, pained chime resonated through the dying air. "Celestra!" Aeris gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and anguish. The Phosflora emerged from a thicket of withered flora, her once magnificent form tragically altered. Her crystalline wings were shattered in places, sharp shards protruding from her translucent body. Her internal luminescence, usually a vibrant cascade of colors, flickered erratically, dimming and brightening like a dying star. Yet her emerald eyes, though clouded with pain, burned with fierce loyalty. She pushed a weary, glowing tendril towards Aeris, nudging her gently. She created a disruption," Aeris explained, tears welling in her eyes as she stroked Celestra's injured form. "A resonance shockwave to temporarily blind their nanite web in this sector, but it cost her dearly." Celesta, too injured to fight effectively, now became their living compass. Her unique resonance allowed her to sense the cleaner energy pathways, the fleeting moments when the Vorlag's nanite web flickered or thinned. She'd occasionally emit a soft, localized chime, creating a momentary ripple that would short-circuit a patrolling Vorlag arachnoid's sensors, giving Kairos and Aeris precious seconds to move. Her silent presence, though weakened, was a constant, desperate comfort. As they pressed on, the very fabric of Veridia Prime seemed to mourn. The vibrant Hestian flora, once a source of wonder, now twisted into grotesque, dying forms. The beautiful, shimmering rivers had receded into muddy, stagnant trickles. Seeing the planet's rapid decline, Aeris felt compelled to reveal more.
"My people, the Star-Seaters," she began, her voice a low melodic hum despite their urgent pace. "We weren't just cultivators, we were architects of cosmic equilibrium. We infused worlds with primal life force, guiding their ecosystems, ensuring harmony. We could sing a world into vibrant existence or soothe its geological turmoil. My genetic makeup isn't just a blueprint for life. It's a living song, a frequency that resonates with the very core of a planet." She paused, navigating a field of sharp, petrified vines. "The Vorlag, they are ancient parasites. They believe true power lies in consumption, not creation. They don't have the innate ability to generate life force, so they steal it. They drain worlds dry, leaving husks. They want my genetic code not to create, but to pervert, to turn our life-giving song into a death knell, a universal siphon that can drain entire star systems to fuel their empire. They seek to annihilate the natural balance, believing that chaos leads to their ultimate dominion." Kairos listened, his mind reeling. This was far beyond anything he'd ever imagined. He was a simple engineer, yet he was now protecting the key to cosmic ecological warfare. He used his knowledge of Veridia Prime's geological formations, cross-referencing them with fragments of abandoned survey maps from the early colony. He found hidden seismic fault lines, now stable, that formed natural tunnels, and old, disused mining passages that allowed them to bypass heavily patrolled Vorlag ground forces. He rigged improvised pressure sensors from scavenged comlink parts, creating rudimentary alarms to warn of approaching arachnoids. But the journey was taking its toll. Fatigue gnawed at Kairos, and Aeris, despite her ethereal nature, showed signs of weariness, her amethyst skin growing paler. Just as they cleared a particularly dense, corrupted forest section, Kairos's comlink crackled to life. It was a garbled, desperate message from the colony, barely audible through the static. Under direct assault. Defenses failing. Evac impossible. We are static. Overrun. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving only the chilling, mournful silence. The colony had fallen. Kairos felt a cold, empty dread settle in his stomach. His home, his friends, gone. The realization hit him with crushing force. Now there was no turning back, no hope of rescue. All that mattered was getting Aeris to the Crimson Spires. She was the last hope, not just for Veridia Prime, but for any world that might fall prey to the Vorlag. They pressed on, the air growing colder, the ground more fractured. As they finally approached the Crimson Spires, the sight was horrifying. The spires, once a beacon of vibrant, pulsating red rock, now glowed with a sick, pulsating crimson, like an open wound. This was the primary nexus, the very heart, where the planet's energy was being siphoned most violently. The air here crackled with raw, unstable energy. At the base of the spires, partially swallowed by the tortured earth, they discovered it. An ancient, pulsating portal woven from living rock and solidified light. Aeris recognized it immediately. "The resonance gateway," she whispered, her voice filled with awe and a hint of terror. "It's not just a portal, Kairos. It's an intergalactic beacon and a planetary conduit. It's how my ancestors seeded worlds, and it's our only way to send the counter-frequency, to sing Veridia Prime back to life." The final confrontation awaited them.
The air at the base of the Crimson Spires was a cacophony of sound and raw energy. The ground thrummed with the Vorlag's parasitic siphon, overlaid by the frantic, dying cries of Veridia Prime's tortured energy grid. Overhead, the colossal Vorlag biological vessels descended further, their multi-jointed legs anchoring into the spires, drilling deeper, faster. Swarms of arachnoid soldiers pulsed from their bellies, scuttling like a living tide towards the resonance gateway. "They know we're here," Kairos gritted out, pulling Aeris behind a cluster of shattered crystalline rock. His makeshift alarms, crude as they were, had gone silent, probably overwhelmed by the sheer noise of the Vorlag's advance. His comlink remained dead. There was no backup, no escape. This was it. Aeris nodded, her eyes, usually pools of twilight, now blazing with a fierce resolve. "They'll try to disable the gateway, or capture me before I can activate it. Celestra's disruption bought us time, but not much." The Vorlag vanguard, a wave of heavily armored arachnoids, crested the rise. Their red eyes glowed with predatory focus, their disruptor cannons charging. Kairos readied himself, gripping a heavy piece of fallen crystal. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but he would fight for Aeris, for Veridia Prime. Just as the first volley of disruptor fire scorched the ground near them, a surge of vibrant, shimmering light erupted from behind the Vorlag lines. It was Celestra. Though barely holding her form, her remaining crystalline wings shredded, her internal light flickering like a dying ember, she roared a defiant, resonant chime. She hurtled into the lead Vorlag arachnoids, not with brute force, but with a blinding flash of pure energy. A final, desperate burst of her resonance. The arachnoids reeled, their armor sparking, their internal biomechanics seizing up. Celestra slammed into a cluster of them, detonating a localized, non-lethal frequency pulse that scrambled their targeting systems, buying precious seconds. "Go, Kairos, now!" Aeris urged, her voice trembling but firm. "I need to reach the core of the gateway." Kairos didn't hesitate. He covered Aeris as she sprinted towards the massive, pulsating resonance gateway. The Vorlag, momentarily disoriented by Celestra's sacrifice, regrouped, their commanders bellowing guttural commands. More arachnoids poured in, bypassing their stunned comrades, their focus solely on Aeris. As Aeris reached the gateway, its organic surface pulsed in response to her presence.
She placed both hands on its shimmering wall, and the glyphs flared, mirroring the dying light of Celestra, who now lay motionless, her light completely extinguished. A wave of profound grief washed over Aeris, but she pushed it aside. This was for Celestra. This was for Veridia Prime. Meanwhile, Kairos fought like a cornered animal. He used his knowledge of the terrain, kicking up loose debris to blind the arachnoids, using the crumbling rock formations as temporary cover. He wasn't powerful, but he was agile and desperate. He knew he was just a distraction, buying Aeris the critical moments she needed. One arachnoid lunged, its razor claws scraping his arm. He cried out, pain flaring, but he twisted, jamming a jagged rock into its vulnerable optical sensor, momentarily disabling it. More were coming. He couldn't hold them off much longer. Inside the gateway, Aeris closed her eyes, focusing. The process wasn't about technology, but about resonance. She had to become one with the planet, to sing its true song through the gateway. Memories of her ancestors, of verdant worlds blooming under their touch, flooded her mind. She felt the dying pulse of Veridia Prime, the planet's cries for help, channeling them into her very being. A low, resonant hum began to emanate from the gateway, growing in intensity. It wasn't the harsh drone of the Vorlag. It was a pure, melodic frequency that vibrated through the air, through Kairos's very bones. The Vorlag arachnoids, sensitive to planetary energies, recoiled, their chitinous bodies twitching in discomfort. Aeris opened her eyes. They glowed with an incandescent light, not just twilight blue, but infused with the vibrant greens and golds of Veridia Prime's very essence. She began to sing. Her voice, usually a gentle chime, now resonated with an ancient, raw power. It was a song woven from light and life, from the deepest core of the Starseeder's being. It was the song of creation, amplified by the gateway, countering the Vorlag's dissonance. As she sang, the sick crimson glow of the spires began to shift, slowly, imperceptibly, towards a healthier, deeper red. The Vorlag reacted with fury. The main vessel above roared, sending down a concentrated beam of dark energy towards the gateway, aiming to silence Aeris. Kairos saw it coming. He launched himself, tackling Aeris away from the direct impact, but the edge of the beam caught the gateway, sending sparks and shrapnel flying. He landed hard, his head ringing. Aeris, momentarily stunned, recovered quickly. "It's working, Kairos. They're trying to sever the connection. I need to increase the amplitude." She plunged her hands deeper into the glowing core of the gateway. The song swelled, becoming a wave of pure, harmonious energy. It vibrated through the ground, through the very air, reaching out to every corner of Veridia Prime. The corrupted nanites within the planet's ley lines began to seize up, sputtering, then dissolving into harmless dust. The Vorlag vessels above began to shake violently, their organic hulls rippling in distress. Their energy siphons, which had been draining the planet, now began to backfire, overloading their own systems. The Vorlag arachnoids on the ground shrieked, their red eyes flaring in pain as the resonant frequencies tore through their biomechanics. They writhed, then collapsed, their bodies turning to ash as the planet's healing energy rejected them. Aeris's song reached its crescendo. A blinding flash of pure, restorative light erupted from the resonance gateway, engulfing the entire crimson spires, then spreading outwards like a benevolent wave across the dying landscape. The sick crimson glow vanished, replaced by a vibrant, pulsating emerald green. The Vorlag vessels, caught in the surge, groaned under the immense positive energy. Their chitinous armor cracked, their internal systems failed, and with a series of thunderous implosions, they began to tear themselves apart, raining down debris onto the recovering forest. The colossal main vessel, its siphon severed, its core destabilized by Aeris's song, let out a final, agonizing shriek before exploding in a spectacular burst of green and purple light, casting a temporary, beautiful aurora across the recovering sky. Silence. Only the gentle hum of the revitalized resonance gateway and the soft, new sounds of a reawakening Veridia Prime remained.
Kairos lay on the scorched earth, bruised and battered, but alive. He pushed himself up, his eyes wide with awe, scanning the transformed landscape. The air, moments ago thick with decay, was now crisp and clean, carrying the faint, sweet scent of blossoming flora. The crimson spires, no longer glowing with a sick light, pulsed with a gentle, vibrant emerald green, radiating pure, healing energy. The ground beneath him hummed with renewed life. Aeris stood by the resonance gateway, her form glowing softly, exhausted but triumphant. Her twilight eyes, though still holding traces of ancient sorrow, now shimmered with profound relief and a radiant inner peace. She was pale, her strength almost completely spent, but the power she had just wielded was undeniable. "It's done," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "The counter-frequency. It restored the planetary harmony. The Vorlag couldn't withstand it. They are gone. From here, at least." Kairos stumbled over to her, pulling her into a careful embrace. "You saved it, Aeris. You saved Veridia Prime." She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "We saved it, Kairos. Celestra, she protected us, and you fought. The Starseeder resonance needed a guardian and a bridge to this world." Her gaze drifted to where Celesta's form lay, now a perfectly still, shimmering outline on the ground, its internal light completely faded. She is at peace now. Her essence returned to the planet. She will be part of Veridia Prime's new song. Over the next few days, the recovery of Veridia Prime was nothing short of miraculous. Where the Vorlag ships had landed, new, vibrant flora began to sprout, almost defiant in their speed. The dry riverbeds swelled with fresh, clear water. The shifting colors of the trees returned with renewed brilliance. It was a testament to the profound power of Aeris's resonance and the inherent vitality of the planet itself. Kairos managed to re-establish a comlink, weak and unstable, to the wider human space. He reported the Vorlag attack, the destruction of the colony, and Aeris's role. The galactic authorities, distant and slow-moving, were astonished, but also deeply concerned. The Vorlag were a legend, a whispered fear. Aeris's testimony, backed by Kairos's frantic reports, confirmed their existence and their horrific capabilities. Humanity was now aware of a far greater, more insidious threat than they had ever imagined. The colony was gone. Its structures were irreparable, scorched earth and twisted metal. Most of its inhabitants had perished. Kairos felt the weight of that loss, a deep sorrow for his friends and his old life. But looking at Aeris, at the thriving life bursting forth around them, watching the new growth sprout from the rejuvenated banks, where do you go? Will you seek out other star-seeders? Warn other worlds? Aeris looked at him, her twilight eyes reflecting the shimmering trees. "My song has gone out into the cosmos. Perhaps others will hear it. But for now, this is my purpose." She gestured around them at the reborn landscape. "Veridia Prime needs me, to guide its healing, to ensure its new harmony. And the resonance gateway, it holds a greater purpose now. It's a beacon, yes, but also a bridge." She turned to him, a faint, hopeful smile gracing her lips. "I cannot do this alone, Kairos. My knowledge is a balance and life, but your understanding of structures, of technology, of human resilience, it is invaluable. Will you stay?
Will you help me rebuild not just a colony, but a new way of life on Veridia Prime, a life in true harmony with the planet?" Kairos looked at the vibrant, reborn world around him, at the woman who had brought it back from the brink, and at the endless possibilities stretching before them. His old life, the predictable routine of an engineer, was gone, but a new, far grander adventure awaited. "Yes," Kairos said, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "Yes, I will." He knew the galaxy was vast and dangerous, that the Vorlag might return, or other threats might emerge. But with Aeris, with the legacy of the Starseeders, and with the heart of Veridia Prime beating strong once more, they had a fighting chance. Their journey had just begun.